She is not ambiguous about her feelings about
That's quite evident, thank you. At this point, I would like to introduce our speaker for the evening, Lloyd Smith. Revising a speech is just as demanding as writing the original speech, maybe even more so. That's because there's a tendency to see a speech we've already delivered as a finished product that needs no further work. However, it's common to realize after giving a speech that it could have been better. That's particularly true of contest speeches. As the speech is presented in the club, area, division, and district contests, the audience changes and enlarges, and the reactions the speech gets change too. This evening, for Project 5, Your Body Speaks, from the Competent Communication Manual, Lloyd will present a revised version of a speech that he won in the area division contest and district contest in humorous speech in the fall of 2014. The speech is about 20% change from its former version. Lloyd Smith and Dare to Be Stupid.
Have you ever dared to be stupid? I don't mean the kind of stupid that might make you take a trigonometry test without studying or grab an electric fence to find out whether it's turned on. I mean the kind of stupid that might make you pursue a completely ridiculous goal for decades and achieve it spectacularly. Let's meet somebody who did just that, lawn chair Larry Walters. For the first 30 years of his life, Larry Walters seemed to be the quintessential average guy. However, one seemingly insignificant event in his childhood dictated his future and determined his fate. When he was about 10 years old, he saw some helium balloons floating near the ceiling of a store. For some reason, those balloons captured his imagination, and he became obsessed with the idea of flying. Not in airplanes, but with balloons. For the next 2 decades, he dreamed about it. He planned it. He talked about it until his family and friends were sick of hearing about it. And then one day, he did it. The late afternoon of July 2nd, 1982, found Larry Walters clutching a paper sack containing his in-flight meal of 2 ham sandwiches and 4 cans of Miller Lite. He was sitting in a Sears aluminum lawn chair, tethered to 45 helium-filled weather balloons and tied down to the bumper of his girlfriend's Pontiac in her driveway in San Pedro, California. Larry had christened his craft Inspiration One, and he was ready for adventure. What kind of ready? You see, 30 years of planning and dreaming and talking had not produced any actual knowledge. Larry assumed that his 45 balloons would lift him 1,000 or maybe even 2,000 feet into the air. He got a big surprise when a friend cut the rope holding him to the car bumper, and he rocketed into the sky at 1,000 feet per minute until he reached 16,000 feet. That's 2/3 of a mile higher than the top of Mount Rainier. Larry also assumed that the onshore winds near the surface would blow him east over the Los Angeles suburbs and out into the desert, where his friends, who would be following along in a car, would pick him up. He got a second big surprise when the offshore winds at 16,000 feet blew him west, right into the flight path of Los Angeles International Airport. Within a few minutes, the pilots of 2 inbound commercial jets had frantically radioed the tower to report that they had just missed colliding in midair with a guy in a lawn chair. The FAA closed the airport, and 36 flights were either held on the ground or diverted to other airports, inconveniencing thousands of travelers across the western U.S. Larry was relieved when he finally drifted away from the airport, but his relief was short-lived when he realized that the infinite Pacific Ocean looming to the west was getting more infinite with every passing minute, and the next land he saw might be China. That's when he decided to deploy his only flight control, a pellet gun tied to his wrist with a piece of string. He began shooting at his balloons, and it worked. He drifted gently down to the streets of Long Beach. Well, almost to the streets. He became entangled in the overhead power lines, and his rescuers had to turn off the electricity to 10 square blocks of downtown Long Beach during the evening rush hour on a Friday, the first day of a holiday weekend. It took 4 hours to clear out the resulting gridlock traffic. Larry was arrested and charged with 12 federal crimes. But even worse, in all of the excitement and confusion, he had forgotten all about the 2 ham sandwiches and 4 cans of Miller Lite. Eventually, Larry pled guilty to 1 count of piloting a civil aircraft for which no airworthiness certificate was on file. He paid a $120 fine, was famous for about 2 weeks, and then drifted back into obscurity. I've thought a lot about Lawn Chair Larry Walters since he made his epic flight over 3 decades ago. I can see him clearly in my mind's eye, drifting across the brown Southern California sky in his lawn chair. He's shivering with the cold and gasping for breath in the thin air. And when he looks down, he's terrified to see the ground 3 miles beneath his dangling feet. But despite all that, he has a big dumb grin on his face. That's because for 90 glorious minutes, Larry Walters was dared to be stupid enough to do exactly what he had always dreamed of doing. Larry Walters was a visionary, a man living decades ahead of his time. He was the prototype of the modern American mindset that has made our great nation the world leader in reality TV shows and YouTube videos. In the process, he taught us something important about following our own dreams. No knowledge, no experience, no common sense, no problem. Just release your inner lawn chair Larry and let him soar. Dare to be stupid.
Great job, Lloyd. Even though I've heard that before, it was still fun to listen to it again. I can't wait to support Lawn Chair Larry.